I don't know how long it was until things got bad again. He did start drinking again. I remember it was almost, he'd start drinking again, the disappearing thing, the coming back. He'd come back like in the middle of the night to my house. And it would be unclear to me, drunk, often really drunk, and kind of accusing me, but not directly. Nothing was very direct. It was a lot of accusations, but they were veiled. What I was wearing, who I was with, why didn't I text him back? I didn't text him back right away. This was when I was at my place in Orange. Sometimes he would show up to catch me. Like that was a pretext for coming over. And by the time we were done talking, I would have thought I had convinced him that I loved him, that I only loved him, there was no one else, and then that we were back in an upswing and would go back to good, loving, like sick, romantic love, like kind, sweet, velvety love. And then it would be something I said, why did you say it that way? If I had to leave for an audition, I could guarantee that couldn't guarantee, but 2 of those in a row, and when I came back, he was angry at me, and I wouldn't necessarily know why. And then he started accusing me of things, probably, like, at first it was indirect, and then it became really direct. Then the punching of the walls next to my head, which is a constant at that time in 2012 when he was drinking. Eventually that became him accusing me of cheating. I'd defend myself. I'd say, that's crazy. You're wrong. I would never. The normal things. And they would escalate to the point where he would push me or shove me down, and then I'd get back up. And this happened several times. That's why it's not more specific, I suppose. When I'd get back up, I'd look him in the eye. I made a point of getting up and looking him in the eye. It's my way of defending myself at that time. And I'd look at him, and he'd ask me if I wanted to go again, and shove me back down. Eventually, he just hit me. I remember he hit me in the face when I denied having an affair with my ex-wife, my ex-partner at the time. And he said he had proof. I denied it. And I was walking out of the bedroom, slapped me across the face. I turned to look at him. And I said, Johnny, you hit me. You just hit me.
I'm going to ask you, Michelle, can you bring up 1783, please?
What number again, please?
I'm sorry.
What number?
Defendants 1783.
1783, thank you.
Do you recognize this picture?
Yes, I do.
And could you tell us what it is?
It's a picture of my face with a note that Johnny left for me by the coffee. Typically is where we'd leave notes like that.
And does this accurately depict the scene portrayed?
It was one of those scenes. As embarrassing as it sounds now, I don't know which scene this came from. There was a lot. It escalated quickly, fast, and it became...
Amber, let me ask it a different way.
Thank you.
Is this a picture of you? Is it an accurate picture of you?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of 1783.
Your Honor, we have an objection. May we approach?
Sure. As Amber describes what happened at the hands of Johnny Depp, she says, I wanted to believe him, so I chose to. Stay with us to hear all of the details. You won't miss any of her testimony here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Good Wednesday afternoon. We are going to take you right back into the courtroom in Fairfax, Virginia. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. We know we did hear Johnny Depp testify, and guess what? Amber Heard's side of the case, she is now on the stand, describing really in great detail in what we call in trial skills narrative form. They ask her a question, she gives all the information to paint the picture. Do you find her credible? Let's go back to court where we left off so you can watch her testimony. With us this hour, Dina Sayegh-Dahl. Dina, thank you for being with us, attorney, trial consultant. Tell me what you think so far, and I may have to cut you off to go back to court. What do you think while they're at a sidebar of Amber Heard's testimony so far?
Thanks for having me. You know, so far, she's actually the kind of witness that she needed. She's very detailed in her account. Typically, when we see a witness testify, that's what we want is details. It gives them more credibility to the story. You know, the public watching this, many of them have formed an opinion, but the jury is the one that's most important here. And her testimony so far, you know, I think for a jury, they are probably seeing her as credible.
And as we all know, that as they're listening to her, watching her on the stand, and she's gotten more and more emotional, obviously, as she's described physical abuse. I'm going to stop there, Dina, coming back to you later. Let's go back into live court.
Some of the cycles you had with Mr. Depp through 2012.
So in 2012, the violence was pretty, you know, relative to what it became, pretty, you know, slapping, backhanding. Well, it went from this eggshell kind of, you're walking on eggshells, nothing you're doing is kind of right, but you don't know what you're doing wrong. And then I was doing something wrong clearly, but it was unclear within the scope of an argument what I was defending myself against. So it would shift from a rumor he had heard that I was with a friend, or I had been photographed standing too close to a male person. That was a person I had had something with, and I was lying to him about. And it would be eggshells, accusations, and then he would explode. It started with throwing things, destroying the property, and screaming at me. I remember the screaming at me was the worst, because I kind of always felt like I had done, you know, I had to defend myself. I had to tell him so he didn't think these things were true. And sometimes, you know, he would shift accusations while I'm trying to dispel one accusation. He'd start another one, and nothing I could do to calm him down. It seemed like I'd walk away, and that would make it worse. I remember in my apartment in Orange, he would grab me by the hair, or he'd grab me by the arm, pull me into him, scream at me that way. He'd smash things around me, then he would smash things very close to me, and then he would just hit me. And it started with slapping, and it got to be like repetitive slaps where he'd hold me in a position and slap me multiple times in a row. Then it would be, you know, eventually I later would either push him off of me, or I'd try to hit his hands away from me. I'd try to, not in 2012 so much. At that time, I was mostly, my defense was, I'd go some other place. Like, I don't know how to describe that. It was, I'd focus on something else. I'd stand up, look at him, try to stand up to him that way. Later, I adopted other kind of strategies to deal with it, but at the time in 2012, it was, he'd have this blowout, and then he would leave, disappear, and I'd be committed to not talking to him. I'm done with this relationship. I can't take it anymore. I said that so many times. And then he'd come back, clean and sober, telling me either he had a chip. He didn't have any chips, but he would say, I've gone to meetings. I have a sober companion now. I'm doing this program, I'm reading this, I'm doing this. And he was done with drugs and alcohol for good this time. And he'd come back in my life, and with the combination of him being sober and having gone through this horrible thing where I felt like my heart ripped out of my chest, you know, like a relationship ending is hard, I think, for anyone, but ending under that circumstance is really painful. And so when he'd come back, it would almost feel like a solution to that. And it would feel great, and we would be good again, and he'd be extra nice and extra apologetic and extra loving, and then we'd be back in the good bubble, the warm glow. And eventually it'd get bored, and then I'd see him drinking again. When I started to get upset, noticing the pattern of the violence going with the drinking and drugs, then he started sneaking it. So it became less clear, and I'd have to look for clues as to what he was on. So I just knew how to react, you know? Johnny on speed is very different from Johnny on opiates. Johnny on opiates, very different from Adderall and cocaine Johnny, which is very different from Quaaludes Johnny. But I had to get good at paying attention to the different versions of him. 2012, I was in the beginning stages of this, just learning these patterns. I was just learning that drinking kind of correlated with the violence.
And did you confide in anyone about these issues you were having?
Objection, hearsay.
I think she can
Objection,
say
hearsay.
I think she can say if she told anybody.
As long as she doesn't say what she said.
Right,
Go ahead.
right.
All right.
So did you tell anyone?
Yes, I did.
Who did you tell?
I told my therapist. I eventually told my mom.
And let's go ahead and take a look at Defendant's Exhibit 150.
I'm sorry,
150.
Your Honor, I'm going to object on hearsay.
All right, you want to approach?
Yeah.
All right, Dina, objecting on hearsay sidebar. Do you feel like there should be fewer sidebars, fewer objections if these attorneys were ready to try a case?
You would think so, although this is not that unusual. This is such a high stakes trial for these attorneys, for the clients, because of the fact, especially this is in the public view. I think they're using a lot of these objections to stop the momentum, to stop the narrative. So to that extent, you know, it's effective.
And we're looking here, and again, I may cut you off, but what do you think about the fact that Johnny Depp has looked down the entire time? We've seen a few facial expressions, times when he's kind of laughed or smiled, but he's coloring, it appears to be, in his book. He's got his snacks next to him. You can see they're on the table. Do you think this is his natural reaction, or do you think his team has advised him what he should do during the testimony? I think I know your answer, but I'd love to hear it.
I think that his team advised him, and it was a very smart idea, because if you're on the jury, you're going to want to look to see how he's reacting. And he would maybe react with frustration or anger if he really believes he's being lied about. And that kind of feeds into this idea of him maybe having a temper. So I think that's exactly what his team doesn't want, is any kind of show of frustration or temper. So it was a great idea on their part to have him look down. I think we're going to see him kind of try to distract himself during most of her testimony.
One viewer said she's not wearing any makeup or less makeup because it makes her look meek, more like a victim. Your thoughts before we need to take a break?
You know, it's very possible. Again, these two people know that this is in the public eye, so I think there's a lot of strategy around how they're appearing, not only to the jury, but to the people who are watching. You know, I hope that's not the case, though, because somebody can be a victim of domestic violence, even if they're super glamorous. So I'm not sure what that necessarily says about anybody who is a legitimate victim of domestic violence.
All right, and if you look on the desk at the candy, it looks like little Red Hots, maybe Sweet Tarts, because we're talking about, what is that? Is that really all candy? I think it is, but viewers, we'd love to hear from you. Listen, while they're at a sidebar, it's a perfect opportunity, because we do need to take our commercial breaks. To take that break, you'll miss none of her testimony. Amber Heard telling the details of what transpired with Johnny Depp from her perspective. Let's go back to court. Continuing direct examination. You haven't missed any of the testimony.
Did you decide to confide in your mother about the issues you were having with Mr. Depp?
I think I felt safe talking to my mom because I knew that she understood these dynamics and she wouldn't judge me for staying with him, for loving him, even though this was happening and was happening to me. I knew she would understand.
And when approximately did you start confiding in your mom about your issues with Mr. Depp and the physical abuse?
Objection, hearsay, compound.
I sustain as to compound.
When did you start confiding in your mother about the abuse you were suffering at the hands of Mr. Depp?
I was confiding in her from the very beginning about the abuse, the psychological abuse, the kind of control, the disappearing, the not knowing where he was, then he'd come back and sometimes in the middle of the night, the constant accusations, like that sort of thing. I talked to her about probably from the very beginning. The fact that I was secret, I had to hide. I couldn't tell any of my friends that I was with him for a long time because he told me everyone would blame me for the split with him and his partner. So I had to kind of sneak around and kind of get brought to his house, typically in a secretive way. And then he'd come to mine in a secretive way. And it was just all very, so very isolating. And I confided with her at the very beginning on that sort of thing. And then later opened up to her about some of the violence. I did it gently. First I just wanted to have someone to talk to about how scary it was. The rage and the uncontrolled violence, the rage that this man had, and why it was pointed at me.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay. May we approach, please?
Okay.
This is another sidebar. So the attorneys have approached the bench. Just as a reminder, a sidebar is when both attorneys approach the bench. It is off the record, whether it's an evidentiary question, clarification, whatever they need to address with the court. But the benefit of a sidebar is it's not on the record. It seems like the attorney has come back. Let's see if it continues.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
It is time for the afternoon break. Everyone is standing up as the jury leaves the courtroom for the break.
So we'll be back. Let's make it 3:45, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right, why they take a break? Dina, a perfect opportunity for you and I to have some time together to chat. What, if anything, has really stood out with you so far from this testimony?
Well, the fact that she kind of talks about the cycle of violence and that being tied to his substance abuse. The fact that she testified after her expert also testified to domestic violence and how people typically act in a relationship of domestic violence. I think this is strong evidence for her because she's tying it to what her expert said. It's also consistent with the research with domestic violence, that there usually is this cycle of ups and downs. So far, she's doing what she needs to do for her case. I mean, we have a long way to go. She hasn't even started to be cross-examined yet either. But this is the kind of testimony she needed in order to be able to move her case forward.
And Dina, let me ask you about this, because the other part of that, as you mentioned, the cycle of abuse, and that's exactly what I kept saying out loud as she was describing first the romance and the relationship and all of the things that were being done. A really quick question for you, and that is, do you think that that's going to win the day for Amber Heard as she describes this cycle of abuse?
I think that both of them were so good, so as she is at least so far with their testimony. A lot will depend in this case on the third parties. How much does her mother back her up? How about her other interviews with the other doctors? How much does that support her testimony? I think who not only said it best, but who has other people supporting them best will be what decides this case.
All right, we're going to go back to court. They have finished their afternoon break, so we're going right back into the courtroom.
All right, thank you. Please be seated. Your next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Amber, I'm going to take you up to March of 2013. Can you describe your relationship with Mr. Depp during that month? And we'll start there.
I remember it was after a period of some peace, and then in sobriety. Johnny was sober, drinking Beck's, and my dad, who was struggling with alcohol and drug addiction at the time, had fallen off the wagon, and I remember he said, "Why don't we I want to send a picture to your dad of support," because my sister was upset with my dad, and so he poured a shot and kind of said, "Let's take a picture." I don't drink spirits, but I know that, I kind of held up in that picture. It's kind of eerie because I just think it's bizarre. He had broken this long period of sobriety that I thought was going to be the end of him drinking forever. It sounds foolish now, but I, held up this kind of glass with him, and we sent the picture to my dad because, I didn't know what else to do. And I remember thinking it was weird that he was drinking. And then the month got really crazy from that point on. It was a bit of a revolving door of accusations. He was accusing me of having affairs with, frankly, just one person. I had an acquaintance with somebody, and he was accusing me of being with them, and then it was accusing me of being with my friend, the one I had
I want to
seen.
thank Dina Sayegdal, our attorney today. Thank you for joining us and all your expertise. Don't go anywhere. You will not miss any of this testimony. We're going to pick back up and resume as soon as we come back from a short break.
Is limited time offer.
I struggle to have the words. I struggle to find the words to describe how painful this is. This is horrible. This is the most painful and difficult thing I've ever gone through.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. We are in a pivotal day in the Depp defamation trial, day 14, with Amber Heard taking the stand in her own defense. Actor Johnny Depp is suing Heard for $50 million following an op-ed that she wrote about domestic violence. Depp says his ex-wife's false claims ruined his career. Heard is now countersuing him for $100 million. At this moment, Amber is on direct examination, talking about how her relationship with Johnny Depp turned abusive. You haven't missed any of her testimony. Let's get you back into the courtroom.
I'm, in these kind of arguments, nothing I do is working. Walking out of the room is me leaving him, walking away from me. Hey, where are you going? I'm talking to you. That it went from that to pulling me in by my arm, still shouting about the accusations. I'm trying to diffuse the situation by trying to tell him I'm not sleeping with this person and I'm not sleeping with that person. And it was kind of, as soon as it seemed as though I had convinced him of one, there was somebody else he was sure I was sleeping with. And it was a revolving door at that time. A painting I had hanging on the wall, done by my ex, who's an artist. That was, one day he was convinced that was proof I was sleeping with her or having an affair with her. I didn't really love him, and all the while I'm madly in love with him and trying to convince him. So March started with this picture of him doing a shot, and he's kind of saying, let's send it to your dad to show support. And what I remember of March is just like it's almost like it was a never-ending fight. It was just, there were breaks in it. What kept me in it is because I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, the sobriety shoe, if you will. I kept waiting for him to get to the point where it's not supportable or anymore, and he's done with it and he's ready to get clean and sober again, because there commences a period of like pure joy. And it was one fight after the other, March.
So let me start with the painting incident. Please tell the jury what happened on that particular incident with the painting.
As I mentioned, the painting, which had been hanging there for months, one day he kind of stayed up doing cocaine, just drinking, doing cocaine, music, which is not in and of itself that weird in my relationship with Johnny at this point. Like he stays up and keeps weird hours and smokes and stuff. But he was drinking brown liquor and doing a lot of cocaine, and it was like, it became clear to me in that argument, if you will, that he wasn't making sense. He had effectively just taken, it seemed like, a turn and had decided that the painting was an offense that he could not forgive me for. It meant I was having an affair with my ex-partner, with whom I had already split, and it made no sense to me. So I'm trying to kind of quell the accusations by saying, it's been there, and what are you talking about? And it's like, that doesn't mean anything. And, he was demanding I take it down. He eventually takes it down and tries to burn it, but it was unsuccessful, luckily, because he was not, he wasn't with one of those normal, what do you call them, Bic lighters. He wasn't very successful at doing it while drinking, to the extent he was. But I remember it was this kind of ridiculous fight, like didn't feel like it needed to be an argument, but it seemed like nothing I could do, nothing I could say. I tried leaving. I left the room. I left the house. I eventually came back. It was like a whole night, an evening, a night, and then a morning of this. So this morning in particular, I think it was the 22nd of March. There were several incidents in March, though. But in this particular one, he had something to go to. He was filming with Keith Richards and Tom Waits.
Well, let me, before you go into that part, let's pull up Defendant's Exhibit 161, which is already admitted into evidence, I believe, Your Honor.
Yes, 161 with redactions is.
Thank you. And I'm going to show you Defendant's Exhibit 161. And the date on this is 3/12/2013, and it's a text exchange between you and Mr. Depp. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And the first one is from you. It's a book. Is that to you? Is it to Mr. Depp from you, or it's vice versa? Isn't it?
It's Johnny texting me.
just thought you should know there exists a book titled Disco Bloodbath. And then you say, we need that book. And you say, is this about last Friday night by any chance? And he says, how can you make me smile about such a hideous moment? And I'm not going to repeat the rest of it. Could you tell the jury what happened on that Friday night?
There were, like I said, there was a few different incidents in March. I believe this one happened in the Eastern Columbia building, which is one of Johnny's penthouses. They're in downtown, so a different part of Los Angeles. And we'd sometimes go there. I remember he was accusing me again of sleeping with this artist, this musician who I'd never slept with. I was denying it. I barely knew the person. And then he was accusing me of sleeping with my friend in Spain. And I remember nothing I could do. He called this person on the phone and screamed at him. He didn't speak English, so he was really confused as to what he was being yelled at by Johnny. But I remember those were the accusations. That was the fight. But it was one to the next accusation. And I remember I was kind of doing that juggling act. I was in one of these fights, I believe it's this one, in his downtown ECB, we call it, loft. And we're in the kitchen living room area, and he backhands me. And, it was, he wears a lot of rings. I remember kind of just feeling like my lip went into my teeth. And it got a little blood on the wall. Just that simple, a little bit of blood on the wall. As hard as it is to explain this, I was so caught up in the relationship and also very occupied in defending what I only could assume he believed, these accusations, that, I didn't internalize, I didn't make that big of a deal of it. I kind of pride myself on being tough, and, I don't make a big deal out of, smaller injuries. And I know that sounds horrible because and hard maybe to understand, but my best way to cope with it is I kind of, minimize it, make sure no one, make sure he knows that I'm tough and can't knock me down, and I make a joke of it, clearly. Make light.
I'm going to, Michelle, if you can take this one down and bring up 170A. Did there come a time in March, Amber, where you sent a picture to your mom?
Yes, this is sometime in March 2013. I sent it to her because I had been texting about some of the craziness, and
Objection, hearsay.
I'll sustain as to what she may have texted. All right, next question.
Without saying what you said in the text, explain why you were sending it to your mom.
I was reaching out. I was very lonely in what I was living in, and I wanted help. I wanted advice, help. I just wanted to talk to somebody and figure out how I could make this stop.
And is this a picture that you took of yourself in March of 2013?
I did.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 170A.
Any objection?
No objection, Your
All
Honor.
right, 170A in evidence. You can publish the picture.
Thank you, Your Honor. And how did you sustain that bruise, Amber?
I had thrown Johnny slapped me. I walked away from him, and that made it worse. We got into like a shouting match. And he kind of did this thing with his body where I could tell he was going to hit me again. I picked up I remember it kind of like a little pot, not a pot, but like a vase. And I remember I got away from him enough as he reels back. I threw it in his direction, and I actually managed to get away before he got me. He grabbed me by the arm, and he kind of just held me on the floor, screaming at me. I don't know how many times he hit me in the face, but I remember being on the floor of my apartment, and I remember thinking, how could this happen to me again?
Can you bring up 170?
You just heard Amber testify. How could this happen to her again? We are going to hit the pause button. We must take a break. When we come back, we'll take you right back into that courtroom from this testimony from Amber Heard.
Call or visit us online.
A day we've been waiting for. Amber Heard is on the stand. We'll take you back to the courtroom. You have not missed any of her testimony. She continues to describe instances of being hit by Johnny Depp. In the meantime, Johnny Depp, seated at the table, continues to keep his eyes down. Back to court.
If we can, Amber, just to start, it's 3/23/2013, and if we can scroll up. This is a text message exchange with your mom, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's go. Scroll down and then.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to hearsay.
Let's wait until we get to the spot. All right, and is this the picture that you sent to your mom on 3/23/2013?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of 170, just that picture that's on the text.
With no words?
Well, it says from 2 weeks ago on it.
Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection.
If we redact the from 2 weeks ago, can we admit it then? And then just have the showing that she sent it to her mom
May
for
we
the
approach,
date?
Your Honor?
Okay, sure.
All right, while we have the opportunity, I'd like to welcome this hour criminal defense attorney from Los Angeles, Philip Dubé. All right, public defender, tell me, and I may have to cut you off, Philip, but I'm so glad to have you. What's your takeaway at this point? What do you think of Amber Heard's testimony?
Well, so far I find her very compelling. I find her very moving. It's very obvious that he stole her heart away, and she's testifying to what happened. And frankly, I find her credible. And I think if the jury finds her credible and Johnny Depp credible, both sides get zero because each side has a burden of proof. They each have to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the statements made about each other are false. If they're both equally believable, both sides take zero.
Right, let's go back to court. We're going to talk about that more in a few moments.
And may we publish to the jury, please?
All right.
And that's the picture you sent to your mom
Yes, it is.
on March 23rd, 2013.
Yes, it was from a previous fight,
Okay.
the bruise.
All right. Now, did you have any other altercations in March 2013 with Mr. Depp?
Yes, we had a couple of these fights in Orange that were around this time, one of which I started to tell you about the painting.
You know, and I know I've interrupted you now twice on that, but I realize the jury doesn't. Can you tell them what you mean by Orange, at Orange?
Sorry, Orange was my apartment that I kept in Los Angeles at the time.
And it was an apartment. What type of an apartment?
I rented the top of a duplex. So it was a house with the landlord living on the bottom floor. I rented the top floor.
Okay, thank you. Now, please continue with the painting. I'm sorry.
It seemed like nothing I could say to Johnny would convince him. He wanted me to remove the painting. And he wanted me to admit to this affair that I wasn't having. And I didn't want to admit to it because it's not true. So I held out, and he just drank more and did more cocaine. And I woke up the next morning, I think it was on the 22nd or the 23rd. I woke up in the morning and the breakfast table was like cocaine and booze. And I realized that I wasn't going to be able to talk our situation down. I wasn't going to be able to talk him out of it. And he was just so convinced that I was fighting with him or the reason that he wouldn't leave the house. And he had something to go film that was important, and there were important people waiting for him. And I remember people were reaching out, his assistants, his manager sister, everyone was wondering where he was. And I kept feeling embarrassed and unable to move this person out of my house. I couldn't calm him down. I couldn't change. He was just so intent on me admitting the details of this affair that I wasn't having. And me pointing out that the cocaine wasn't making his situation any better made me the bad cop. Then I'm the nag. So eventually I called my sister. He had a kind of a buddy-buddy relationship with her at the time. And at the time, she occasionally did cocaine. I didn't, but she did. So I was like, hey, come take over. Maybe you can buddy-buddy him and talk him into leaving the house, just getting out of the house. And she did. I remember his assistants trying to get him out. We eventually in the evening, I think early evening, he finally agrees to leave, but I can't tell our relationship status. I can't tell if he still is convinced of these things or if he's just gonna sleep it off and it's gonna go back to normal sobriety, sorry kind of phase. And he was still upset, but seemingly calming down. So I agreed to go with him. He wanted me to go to the shoot. I had plans, so I kind of reluctantly agreed, but didn't want to set anything off. I didn't want to engage anymore. I didn't want to do anything that could be perceived as antagonizing him or engaging more. So I went with him. We grabbed the dogs, we get in the car, we're on the way there. We're headed up Sweetzer's the street. It's a major street that leads up to Johnny's houses. He effectively owns the end of the street. It's like a cul-de-sac. So we're nowhere near his home, but we were driving up this street and he has the window down, he's smoking. It wasn't all the way down, but he's constantly smoking. And at some point he starts howling out of the window and then grabs two small dogs. Well, one was Johnny's dog and one was my dog, but he grabs, if I remember correctly, Boo, his dog, slightly chunkier teacup Yorkie, and he grabs this teacup Yorkie and holds Boo out of the window of the moving car. And he's howling like like an animal, while holding the dog out of the window. And everyone in the car, I'll never forget it, everyone just froze. No one did anything. And I too was like torn as to what I should do, because I didn't want to do anything to cause him to react, drop the dog. You know, it was just this eerie moment where he's howling and holding this animal outside of the car window. And more than that weird memory is that I have more than that weird memory, I have a memory of everyone just kind of not really reacting to him. Like no one really kind of did anything. I eventually kind of pulled his arms gently back into the vehicle and kind of got the dog back on the seat, and we continued driving, but no one reacted. They just kind of avoided dealing with it. We get to the place, the house where he was filming this thing that he was late for, I suppose, for the day. And we walk in. Meanwhile, I've been bombarded by text messages and calls and conversations with everyone seemingly so stressed about...
Objection, hearsay.
All right.
Just don't tell us what...
Really describing a lot of controlling behavior from Johnny Depp. What else does she have to tell us about a relationship and all of the different allegations? Stay tuned. We're going to bring you that next after a short break.
I'm here to support Johnny for his trial and to help raise awareness.
I mean, yeah, I support him. I like everything he's got.
It's more coming out than I thought it would be, so I told it for both sides. So this is, it's interesting, but maybe sad too. Yeah.
People outside on the street, outside of this courthouse in Fairfax, Virginia. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Thank you for being with us. I'm honored to be with you this afternoon. Outside on the street, exactly what they've been waiting for at this courthouse. Amber Heard's testimony. Also seeing a lot of viewer reactions to her testimony. What are your thoughts? Share it with us at Court TV as we continue to look at all your reactions. And what else does Amber Heard have to say? You've not missed any of her testimony. We hit the pause button. We'll take you back into the courtroom now, and she's testifying for her attorney. This is direct examination. A lot more to go. Let's go back to court.
Observed.
I understood everyone was stressed. They seemed stressed to me about the tardiness. Where is he? Let's get him there, you know, so we get him there. And no one reacts when we get in. I mean, we walk into this house where everyone was waiting for him, and everyone smiles and says, you know, hey, boss.
Objection, hearsay.
Okay. So,
Sorry.
Okay. Let's, Michelle, can we pull up 167A? I think we do. Is B the one that's in? 167B is already in, right? Oh, it's A. Okay, then go ahead and pull up A. Does Your Honor show that one to be in 167A? Defendants. Sorry.
Well, yeah, this might be your 167A, but it's in evidence as a plaintiff's number, and I'm not sure which plaintiff's number it is. I don't need it in twice, so.
I would agree. Do we?
Your Honor, I don't think it's this version of the photograph that's been admitted. So it's a
different version.
It's a
Same
different
photograph, but a little different. Is that what we're?
It's not the same photograph.
Okay, not the
All
same
right, well,
photograph.
then-
Then we'll go with it. Then what number is it?
Do you recognize this photo?
Yes, I do.
Please tell the jury what it is.
It's a picture I took of my breakfast table that morning.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 167A.
167A. Any objection?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure.
Another sidebar after an objection, not unusual in this particular trial. Still with us, criminal defense attorney Philip Dubé. Philip, I want to push back a little bit because I know that you said your first thoughts were that Amber Heard appears to be credible, compelling. Social media-wise, it is blowing up that people think that she is acting as too over the top. How would you respond to that?
Well, let's be honest, Ashley. Actors, actresses, histrionic and borderline personalities can also be victims and not just play them on the big screen.
All right, thank you. We're going back to court.
Could you tell the jury what the box is that has the property with the skull bones, property of JD?
That's Johnny's drug box. I've seen it used for pills, but at the time it was bags of Coke, like dime bags of Coke.
Okay. And what are these white lines on the table to the left of that box?
That is cocaine.
Okay. And do you know what is in these two glasses that have kind of a gold-colored liquor?
Yes, they're different, actually. It's confusing. They're different. Different liquids. The one in the back in the larger glass is, I believe at the time I was doing these tabs, they're Barocca, that's what they're called. They're little tablets. And anyway, I remember at the time that's what I was putting in my water because I had just come back from France where they sell them. And then the brown liquid in the shot glass is Johnny's liquor. I don't know what it's called, but we kept it in the freezer. At the time, it was at that time, March 2013, I hadn't, I still didn't have the, hard line. I won't even keep that, in my freezer sort of attitude or posture with him. I wasn't that bold at the time, I didn't like it, but I didn't have that strength. I kind of, at that time, I think, was doing things like trying to pour it out when I could.
So what is the bag, the brown bag on the left side? What is that?
That's a DOP kit. It's his prescriptions and cigarette, tobacco, weed, things like that.
Okay, and then above it there appears to be a CD of some sort, DVD, something. Do you recognize that?
Yes, it's the single, I believe is what it's called, the single he was making at the time. I think that's the song that they were filming a video for, if I'm correct.
Okay. All right. Now, did you end up sending a copy of this picture to Rocky Pennington that day?
I did. I sent it to my best friend at the time, and, I was like, look at my morning.
Objection, hearsay.
Okay, you can't say what you said, but you sent it to your friend, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to 167, please. And is that the email in which you sent this picture to Rocky Pennington on 3/22,
yes.
2013? Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of the picture with the redaction of the message on it, with the top with identifier redactions, and we take out the rest of it.
Oh, all right. Any objection?
No objection.
All right, so I'm going to do those redactions, 167 and evidence with redactions.
All right. And may we publish, please? All right. And is this the text message, the email that you sent to Rocky with this picture?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to take you to, let's go to Hicksville. Let's tell the jury about Hicksville, May 2013. Can you tell the jury what transpired at Hicksville?
It is it's like a fancy trailer park, like a little hotel in the middle of nowhere, set up with these little trailers, and we had made a plan to go there with friends, and we were going to do, like laughy, as we said, laughy drugs, like mushrooms, eat mushrooms, sit by a campfire. There's really not a whole lot else to do out there. It's like a getaway. We had made this plan, and it was going fine. It was like a, kind of like a party out in the desert with a few friends and campfire and music. And I don't know somebody brought MDMA. It was being passed around, and somebody who took it kind of was starting to feel the effects of it, I guess is the best way to describe. She kind of reacted in this way where when the MDMA hit her, she kind of, we were sitting around a campfire, all of us, and she kind of just leaned into me and put her, head on my shoulder and kind of grabbed my arm. I took it, to be the effects of the drug. I think I had eaten a mushroom cap, but was not feeling anything at the time. I don't remember feeling anything because the night just kind of changed pretty dramatically before I really felt anything of the effects of that. But that was the environment we were in, and as soon as she kind of did this thing where she leaned into me, Johnny gets really activated. He gets really upset, and he starts. Well, at first she thought he was kidding too. She thought he was kind of making a joke. I think we all did. Everyone kind of responded at first, that it was a joke. But he was like, "Hey man, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing?" And she kind of giggled and kind of leaned into me more, and I knew in my body just instantly that it wasn't a joke. But she didn't. So she's kind of still attached to my arm when he says it again to her louder. I think she kind of started to cry at this point, but she kind of threw up her hands, and Johnny grabbed her wrist and kind of twisted it and pulled her into him and said, "Do you know how many pounds of pressure it takes to break a human wrist? Huh?" And he kind of held her, and she just looked frozen. And she's crying, and she was just denying understanding what was going on. I stepped in. I kind of take Johnny's arm around, kind of take Johnny's hand, and kind of we start communicating. I don't remember if he immediately was accusing me or if it was sometime after. I wish I remembered, but we agreed that we'd go and talk about it in the trailer. So we walked to the trailer, and when we're in the trailer, Johnny, by the time we get into the trailer, Johnny tells me that I had been instigating asking for this, and that I had invited it, and that I hadn't been honest with him about my relationship with this woman. And I didn't really know her that well. I mean, I actually don't know her at all, but I had met her. And I remember in the trailer, he's accusing me of lying about it, and that I had something with her. I'm trying to diffuse that. I'm trying to calm him down. And he just turned all that, it seemed like he turned all that rage onto the trailer itself. And he just started smashing things. He picked up something on the table and threw it right into the glass cabinet. He hit with his hand a wall sconce. He cleared the tabletop on the little fold-down, like kitchen, dining room area in this trailer. I mean, it's a trailer, so there's only so much you can do. And he's screaming at me, just screaming at me.
As Amber Heard describes other individuals involved or as witnesses, that gives us a good idea of who we might expect after she finishes testifying. But I have no doubt she has a lot more to say. We're going to take a break. We will hit the pause button back on the other side.
9 now.
Finally, on the stand, Amber Heard. Let's take you back into the courtroom. You haven't missed any of her testimony. And a reminder, she is on direct examination by her own attorney, telling her narrative.
I eventually go back into the bedroom area. He comes into the bedroom area. We had what I can only describe as it sounded like nonsense from him. It wasn't making sense. And I realized that he's just probably really high because it wasn't making sense anymore. It wasn't like a direct accusation. He wasn't hearing me when I was saying I wasn't involved, wasn't cheating on him. I wasn't secretly trying to engage this woman in some sort of sexual affair. And then it became clear to me he was like looking for something. He cleared things off the bed. I went into the bathroom, and as I come out, he asked me where it is and how long I've been hiding it. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he says, you know me. Where are you hiding it? And he kind of like makes to look into the bathroom. And I gestured to the bathroom, which was to my right. I kind of like gestured to him and I said, like, what am I hiding and where am I gonna hide it? And we're standing in this little hallway area outside of the bathroom, and he starts, you know, what feels like patting me down or saying he's patting me down. I can't recall, but he ripped my dress, the strap top part of my dress. I had just dyed this thing myself, pink, and it's just one of those things I was like, you know, I just finished that dress. And he's like grabbing my breasts, he's touching my thighs, he rips my underwear off, and then he proceeds to do a cavity search. He said he was looking for his drugs, his cocaine, his coke. I was wondering how somebody who didn't do cocaine and was against it, that was in and of itself causing problems in our relationship. How could I hide? Why would I hide his drugs from, like he was insinuating that I was doing it or something? It made no sense. And he was telling me we're gonna conduct a cavity search, shall we? Like, just shoved his fingers inside me. And I just stood there staring at the stupid light. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there. While he did that, he twisted his fingers around. I didn't say like stop or anything.
So the next morning, what transpired?
I remember thinking that Johnny would change his mind. And it would be, yeah, I thought it would end differently. I kind of froze. I don't know how we went to bed that night. I don't know how I went to bed. I don't know how I slept. I don't know how we woke up. I don't remember having a conversation with him the next day. I don't remember talking to him about it or confronting him about it. I remember wanting it to be okay. I remember just whatever trip that was to end, you know, just to be over and for it to just go back to normal. And I remember my friends were out by the pool. Like there was a pool in the center of the trailer park, and I remember putting on my, just putting on my face and going back into this like crowd, and I remember seeing my friends by the pool thinking they were just having a great time, and no one knew what was, I felt so lonely, like no one knows everyone was just having a good time, like normal stuff. So I just smiled and made a joke about how trashed the trailer got, and we had to get the manager